Hi, thank you for joining me for this review of this full-speed Tinyleader HD brushless whoop FPV racing drone. This is a 75mm and is a BNF bind and fly version. So you can get it with a DSMX receiver or a FreeSky, and this FreeSky version comes with a Nano V version 2 mini receiver. You can get it with a FlySky receiver or plug and play for your own receiver. Here are QR codes for a quick start manual that you can just download or have a look at. Very basic, gives the transmitter setup and guide through and the binding just for the various receivers. There's also a QR code for a firmware download, the full speed website and the Tinyleader Facebook group. And we open the box, very basic, just comes with this yellow fellow, Tinyleader HD Whoop. And just a couple of decals. So the first thing that strikes you is that these front ducts actually look as though they're bigger than the back ones, but they're not. They're actually just splayed a little bit more outwards, but are the same size, and this is to accommodate the camera in the front here. Now the antennas were actually, this 5.8 gigahertz antenna was just lying splayed outwards, and the 2.4 gigahertz. So I've taken the 2.4 gigahertz antenna and fed it through this hole in the top here, which I think was actually meant for the 5.8 gigahertz antenna, but the way this has been put together, this is not fitting and going to be positioned there. So what I've done, I've just taken a little bit of blue tack or press stick, whatever you call it, and I'm just going to use press stick to hold the 5.8 gigahertz antenna into position here. Now with whoops, the big thing is weight. Let's have a look and see how much this weighs. So no battery attached. So without the battery, it weighs 55 grams. And if you sort of have a look at the balance on this, it's very front heavy due to the camera being positioned over here. And that's probably why we've got this angle. Yeah, the camera is slightly adjustable, but can't go down further than this. If it does need to, one could always just cut away a bit of the front here to lower it further if need be. So plastic with a 1mm carbon fiber frame. And what I really like about this too is that these ducts, if they get damaged, can be removed by just removing 3 screws and replaced. And you can get these spare ducts and a spare frame for this. Got these 4-blade 40mm propellers that are unfortunately push on and pull off, and these are attached to these full speed 1103 11,000 kV brushless motors. And I'm not a big fan of these push on and pull off, but I have tried pulling one of these off and it's sitting very fast. But very disappointing, this hasn't come with any spare propellers, and these 4-blade 40mm propellers with a 1.5mm hole aren't so easy to come by, but hopefully more of them will become available. Great to see the motors plug in. This comes with a full speed F411 FC flight controller board with Betaflight OSD, 8 amp BL Heli S 4-in-1 ESCs, and the camera is a Cadex Turtle V2 800 TVL HD 1080p at 60 frames per second HD camera with a 1.8mm turbo eye lens, and this connects to a full speed FSD TX600 25 milliwatt up to 600 milliwatt FPV transmitter. But out of the box, this comes locked on at 25 milliwatts and needs to be unlocked if you want to access more channels on the 25 milliwatt band, or if you want to increase the band too. And if we have a look here, and if you can see over here, there's a little button here that needs to be pressed down and held for about 20 seconds to unlock the VTX. Over here you can see the SD card slot to put in a SD card to record directly on board. And we can see the micro USB connection to connect to Betaflight. And then the receiver is just tucked away in here, over here, and will just need to be pulled out, and here's a button to press to bind. The battery connection, and this doesn't come with a battery, and it comes with this sort of 3D printed mount here, which actually limits you in terms of the size of battery you can use. So the recommended battery for this is this battery that will actually fit in here perfectly, and one can also get this new 520 mAh battery that may be suitable for this too. It can take a 2S or a 3S, but I'm going to be sticking to a 2S with this to try and keep the weight down and not focus too much on performance for now, to get the benefits of the HD camera, but we'll try it with the 3S battery and test performance at a later stage. Now, one thing I have noticed here is that there is a screw head protruding, which is not good and can puncture a LiPo battery. I would recommend they put a silicone mat or something here to cover and get this and prevent this from digging into the battery. And this can be removed. This is held on with two 7mm screws. So I think I'm going to be removing this because this 600 mAh battery that I've got doesn't fit into here. And also be trying this with this 2S 600 mAh 25C battery by just splicing an XT60 connector into it over here, and also trying it with this 500 mAh battery. So I'm going to be modifying this and putting a strap on rather to hold various size batteries. So really nice to see the HD versions emerging now on these powerful brushless motors and an F4 FC. You can also get this in a standard version non-HD with a Cadex Turbo Micro f2 camera instead of this Cadex Total V2. So let me just modify the battery bay. So I've modded the battery bay here, secured on a strap, put a bit of plastic just over here to help hold these screw heads in place, some adhesive on either side, particularly to hide that screw, and some Velcro. Put XT60 connectors onto this battery. Now I want to keep weight down, so this battery and the other ones on charge both come in at 33 grams, and this battery at 31 grams. So this should keep it as light. This is the little section that came off. I suppose one could 3D print according to your batteries you want to use and put a mount on like this too. Let me just pop an SD card in here and show you. So here's the SD card slot over here. Not the easiest thing to reach, well, but spring loaded and clips into there. Nothing to scare it into position. It does take a bump. Good to check and see that the SD card has not popped out. And then to bind, set up your radio controller to bind. So I've created a model already. Go into the setup and then select mode D8 and get ready to bind. Then you press down on the button on the receiver I showed you earlier, and while you're holding it down, connect power on the battery. Then you can release the button, press bind, let it beep and bind. You'll see the light will go red color on the receiver. Go out of the bind process, disconnect the battery, reconnect the battery, and you should have a solid red light on the receiver. So now let's connect it up to Betaflight. So here we are connected to Betaflight. And the first thing that's always good to do is back up your CLI. If you're not sure how to do that, just do a search for backing up CLI. There's a lot of helpful information so that you can back up the default settings if you have a problem. You can also click backup here to back up a file. That will also help you restore it if need be at a later stage. Now always first thing good, place it on a level surface and calibrate the accelerometer. Then if we have a look at ports, UART1 is enabled for serial RTX, and UART2 is for the IRC tramp protocol that allow you to access and change OSD settings and also to put it into self flip mode. Look at the configuration. It's Quad X. We've got D-Shot 600. I've enabled motor stop because I prefer the motors to spin. Yeah, the other settings here. Got the craft name. I put in a 10-degree FPV angle there. Here must be serial based for the FreeSky receiver and S-Bus. And then we've just got OSD and anti-gravity enabled here. Power and battery. Now you do need to change the settings because the default settings are set far too low. So I've changed this and I've set the minimal cell voltage to 2.9, maximum 4.5, and warning cell to 3.2. If we look at the PIDs, these are the default PIDs, and I'm going to leave it on the default PIDs and see how it goes. receiver, got everything connected, channel map, but you need to put RSSI on auxiliary 5. So put the RSSI channel here on auxiliary 5. Now the modes you'll basically have to set up on your own. The modes aren't configured. So you put in your arm, disarm, and choose accordingly. Add your mode speeds. So I've got horizon, got beep on auxiliary 4, and I've got air mode on auxiliary 3. And flip over after crash I've got on auxiliary 9. We can look at the OSD settings, choose the values that you want. I've included craft name, which wasn't, I think, and fly mode. But just choose the values you want and rearrange these on the screen, just depending on where and how you like it. Leave it at NTSC. I tested this to see if auto would work, but then the screen just comes out grey. Got all the warnings here, post-flight statistics if we logged, and everything over here. I also included VTX channel. And then when you're finished making all your changes, again, do another backup with your saved changes. So back up the CLI. Let's just have a look here. And we can see the target is full speed F411. So this is FSD 41. Version 3.5.1, dated November the 1st, 2018. So these are the settings in Betaflight. Okay, I've got it connected to my 5.8 gigahertz DVR monitor here now. And as you can see, we've got OSD, but we've got a grey screen. So if this happens, what you've got to do is click on the start video button that is over here. So let me just press this and click on it, and then it'll revert. So that's a bit of a glitch, so don't think you've got a problem with your camera. You just need to press and hold and then release that video start button. Now if you want to change settings on your radio controller, and then I'm going to just press this button again, okay, and just show you here, if you're on this grey screen and you want to go into settings, let me just exit. What you need to do, put your throttle lever to middle, pull left, go and right stick up, and you get into the menu here. So you can go into profile settings, oops, go into features, and go into OSD, go into FCFW info, go into miscellaneous, and you can exit or save and exit. So I'm going to exit here now, and then just press this button again, and here we're back in normal mode. Now just button is in a difficult position and you've got to make sure you press it properly. And there, and if you're flying, you also need to stop the video before you power it off, or else you could lose the video. But now, hidden away, we've got this little connection here. And with this, you can change the settings directly on the Caddx Turtle camera. So I haven't got a menu board for the Caddx Turtle, but I've got one for a Fox here. And let me just plug this in. Okay, so I've got this plugged in, and if I press enter, I can get into the settings for the Caddx Turtle camera. Okay, up is actually down, or I can just navigate through it like this. So if I click on OSD settings, we can do settings here. Select video settings. Yeah, you can select the resolution, wide dynamic. Now here, we've got auto recording. So if I now select this and I go on, that means when I power the quad on, it will start auto recording, and it's also when the quad gets powered off, should save the video. So this is a lot better if you can change this setting, and then it'll auto record onto the SD card in flight. You can change loop video. I'm going to select save and exit. Then I'll just show you here. Oops. Go back into this again. Just have a look at TV ratio here. We got 16:9. Oopsie. And you can change it as 4:3. I prefer 16:9. And then I've just got to try and navigate. Sorry, save and exit here. Just going to save and exit. Make sure I save that setting. Press the menu button again. Okay. These are the camera settings that you can change. Image effects that can be changed. Now it's got the TV system as PAL. I didn't know this was an option, because in the Betaflight settings it said NTSC. So to be safe, I'm going to leave it on NTSC. Oopsie, sorry, let me just go back in here again. And we have a look at system settings, and these are the settings that you can do in system settings too. So if you want to change the settings on the Caddx Turtle camera itself, and you've got a menu board for a camera, you should be able to do this too. So now let's go and see how this performs. Okay, let's see how this Tinyleader goes. Chris, our ace pilot's going to test it. Okay. Nice.
I have a lot more. It'll do. It flies well, doesn't it? It does, yeah, it's just a transmitter for me. Yeah.
Cheers, mate. Well done.
She feels a little bit heavy on the bottom.
Yeah.
Going round, she feels a little bit heavy.
Yeah.
But she's lovely. Absolutely lovely.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, if anything, I was a little bit scared to kind of give it full revolution on the face because she really wants to go.
Yeah. So unfortunately, due to weather conditions, I won't get a chance to fly this outdoors for at least another week. So I'll post an outdoor flight and test in a separate video. This video is long enough as it is already. It does fly nicely indoors. The camera angle is fine. But if you do want to sort of hover, you may want to drop it down a bit more by cutting a bit away here. Initially it feels as though the expos are a bit high on this, but you quickly get used to it and it's actually fine. So no real need to change the default pitch settings unless you prefer particular rates yourself. You do feel the weight a bit, but again, you get used to it and it's not an issue. Plenty of power on a 2-cell battery. So apart from buttons being in very awkward places, it is a nice performing whoop. So please subscribe, like, comment and share if you like my videos.